Well, hello again. Today we are going to take another step backwards and we're going to look at some of the footage from when we cleared what we originally called our off-grid cabin site. And this particular area was really quite the challenge, as you can see from this photo. The bramble and the undergrowth was horribly thick. It was actually so thick that the bucket didn't want to push things over, so I would get far enough in with the bucket that I would literally be hitting the bramble with my face on the tractor because it was so the vine maples were so tall. There's some Japanese rose in here that is a pretty big vine. In fact, I will highlight that real quick for you. Alright, so this cyan circle is the vine maple, the Japanese rose. It's got a kind of a pale yellowish green. The blue circle is the Himalayan blackberry, which both of those are invasive weeds. And then the green circle is the vine maple. And all three of these are technically weeds, but the only ones that were actually a problem were the rose and the blackberry because they have thorns, and thorns aren't fun. So what I would try and do is push things over with the bucket, and then I would turn around and use the brush hog to try and mow things over, and I actually ran into the same problem where the brush hog would actually go underneath all of the shrubs and it would cut the bases off, but the blackberry and the Japanese rose have and I wish I were exaggerating, they have like 30 and 40, sometimes 50-foot long canes that are going all the way up 15 and 20 feet into the trees up above, and then they come back down and touch the ground. And especially the blackberries, they'll start a new plant right there where they touch the ground, and so they just bind themselves to the ground super hard. Quite difficult and quite a pain to remove. So I would run into them face first going forward with the bucket, and then I'd run into them the back of my head first if I was going backwards, because it would cut the bottom of them, and then they would come back and just cover the brush hog. So I actually ended up in this picture is the result of using a brush trimmer, and as much as my arms hated me for doing this, I would just use the brush trimmer and wave it around up and down. It took care of the blackberries and the Japanese rose pretty well, but the vine maples, which is what the long green sticks at the bottom of the screen are, it didn't like those very much. It didn't have a particularly cut-worthy blade on it. This particular photo was an example of what I was telling you about with the brush hog. I had just backed up into this little grove of alders with the brush hog, and as soon as I pull out, everything just falls down on top of where it is, so you can barely tell that it's there. What I really need is a grapple or a flail mower on an excavator, but don't have those yet. Or, time of this video anyway, we definitely didn't, and still don't. They're on the list of things we want, though. So this is actually some footage of trying to use the backhoe to break the alders and try and rip the vines down, and it seemed to work pretty well for the most part. There were times where things would get wrapped around the backhoe, and I would have to try and get them unstuck, which is painful when they all have thorns. But yeah, at this point I'm just pushing things over and trying to get as much cleared as I can before I even start doing any kind of digging. That way I can see what the ground is like, where the contours of the ground are, so I know what I need to do to actually make that work with the with what I want. And as you can see here, it does work pretty well. These alders are young enough. There was a few cottonwoods mixed in with some of these alders, um, but they were all young enough that they weren't too big of a deal to push down. This particular portion of the property had been harvested at this point in time about 12 years prior, so that's about 14 years ago now, somewhere in the 2010 range, give or take a year. And so they just grew up with weeds for whatever seeds happened to land and take hold first. And the red alder is one that takes hold before most other trees, and that's actually a good thing. It's a pretty awesome thing here because it's one of the reasons the nutrients in the soil are so rich. Is because it actually is a nitrogen fixing tree. So it takes nitrogen out of the air and dumps it into the soil, and then when it dies, it decomposes and adds even more nutrients into the soil for whatever trees end up growing after it. So having a secret garden here is actually going to be a really good thing, because it still has red alders all around it, and we'll probably mix a few red alders here and there strategically in the garden to get a canopy over it again. One of the advantages that the red alders have is they actually grow super fast, in the order of like 4 to 5 feet per year. They can grow ridiculously fast, so that'll be definitely a benefit to have them in the area for numerous reasons. But yeah, it's just a matter of pushing over the trees, well, getting access to the trees, and then pushing them over and pulling them up with their root stump. Coincidentally, for those who were at the wedding or have seen the videos about building the wedding thrones, these alders that I'm pushing over in this particular clip are the trees that went into the main structure of the thrones. So all the arms, the legs, the armrests, all the back supports, everything except the seat and the actual backrest. The seat was some ash that my dad had actually helped gather up and clean up after we took that down with the neighbors. And the back of the seat was some cherries that were actually from the camping area or the private fire pit that is just to the left on the screen, or just to the south of this spot on the hill. We had a friend that was helping us clear an area to the plan was to park the camper back there, but that didn't work out. And while he was back there, I asked him to push over some cherry trees that had all fallen, and they were literally a giant game of pickup sticks, because there were 2 ash trees that were supporting a total of 9 cherry trees. Like 4 were leaning against one on top of the other, leaning against one of the ash trees, and 4 were leaning one on top, or excuse me, 5 were leaning one on top of the other across some of the other ones. So it was a super dangerous spot to get in there with a chainsaw, but with his excavator he was able to just literally push them and pick them up, set them off to the side, and then I could go back and cut them up. And we have a pile of cherry logs that we will someday make something out of. I promised Emily I'd make her a bed frame out of them, so we'll see how that goes. But yep, these ash trees are about 40 feet tall, and again, I mean, they're only 12 years old. It's just crazy how fast they grow. So that's an average of like 3.5 feet per year, something like that, depending on when they actually did officially do the harvest. Unfortunately, we're getting a little bit on the dark side as the sun's going down. That tends to be the struggle that I have in the fall. And even today, I clocked out of work. I was working late, making up for some time off yesterday, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna go just do a little bit more dirt work when I get off. And I clocked out and looked up, and sun was already going down. So that didn't happen, but that's okay. So as the video does start to get a little bit on the dark side here, but we'll go ahead and shift over to some photos, I think, at this point. Well, I take that back, because I've mentioned in a few videos that I have a kitty that likes to follow me. She's more of a puppy dog than any other cat that I've ever had. So we're definitely going to have to leave her footage. She decided that it was time to come and notify me that it was time to go in, and so she walks across. As she comes up, as soon as the tractor stops running, she knows that there's something going on, and then that's when I'm done. And so she comes to try and say hi, which is just too cute. And so I ran into her just as it was getting too dark, and then she just followed me home. So I got a little bit of a late start getting out here the next day, and she'd already gone outside and wandered around, and I was doing something else. It's been 2 years, so I can't actually remember what it was that I was doing, but little Kernigan found a spot here under the tractor where she found some leaves to lay on. There wasn't any thorns apparently, and it was nice and shady and cool and out of the sun, and so she was sitting here under the tractor waiting for me when I came out. So this shot is of the overall progress, where I ended up with from the night before, and I think I got a little bit more done, and then I wanted to show here in this next shot. All right, I wanted to use the tractor as kind of a point of scale and show the trail that comes up the hill to where we're at. So that's just kind of a little bit of a fun shot. And then here in this next shot, I thought it would be kind of fun to walk a ways down the hill and take a shot, to get a picture going up again, to just kind of show scale and distance, because it's really difficult to see in photos the actual distance where things are, because you can't really tell how big the vines are versus how big the trees are. So it makes it scale difficult. Alright, so this next little bit of footage you could probably say was a failed camera angle. I actually had tried to make like a little harness for a spare phone that we had, and I was using that as the camera, and I strapped it to one of the trees, and apparently it slipped as I was walking away, so you can't really see much of anything about what I'm doing. You can see a little bit of the tractor work there. And I mean, basically I'm working on some of the dirt work and clearing more area down below this spot. So there's actually about 7 spots that we were working on building as a campground for when people come and visit. So there would actually be some tent sites, and so I'm just trying to move the dirt around. And then right here I'm actually working on kind of leveling the top of the private camp area. That is the the top there, and that's kind of where we talked about potentially putting a swing, which we still kind of want to do. That would be kind of cool. I came over here and started messing with this oak a little bit down there. That's what that dark green behind me is, and decided to leave that alone and started using the backhoe to pick up some of the bigger sticks. And then I actually had something else to do, so I called it early for the day. But this next image is one that I find stunning, to be honest. It's a gorgeous image in so many ways, and the truth be told, I don't actually remember taking it. It's of the trail going up there to the the secret garden area. And as I was coming down, I must have just seen the stairways to heaven, and thought to try and capture them. And it's just amazing. I don't actually remember taking it, but it was sitting there on my phone, so clearly I did. But I find it to be I don't know. To me, it's just a gorgeous photo on so many levels. And since this was taken on my cell phone, I actually don't have a way to edit it. So this is like really what came out of the camera, which is pretty cool. So this is all of my salvage wood from clearing the little shed pad over here. These were all alders except for these few at the top that are kind of crooked and bent. That was an oak, and I tell you what, that 5 foot, either one of those 5 foot sections of oak weigh more than an 8 foot section of those alders of the same size. They're heavy. I'm trying wherever I can to leave the oak. This one was getting pulled down by the vines and stuff, so I gotta just support it a little bit to get it to straighten back up. It's actually starting to spring back up on its own already. But here's the problem that I'm running into. That's the oak stump. And I have moved a lot of dirt so far, and as you can see, there are roots just everywhere. So I can't really get close to the stump because I keep running into the roots, and I'm actually out of position now. So what I was doing last night, I started trying to pile it up, and then I would back up and sort of spread it out, trying to create a bit more of a level pad over there for me to sit on with the tractor. And I'm just out of room. So then I started trying to push it down and kind of go that way, but realized that's not where I want the dirt. So I figured that today I got to clear out my pile of salvage wood that was over here, which, as you see, is now in the tractor. I'll get that out of here. And then I'm going to end up making it level. It'll start somewhere right about here. There's actually a stump below this. So I'm going to leave this stump here, and this point here is where I'm going to level the entire area off of. So what I'll do now is I
I gotta come back, pick up all these sections of log that are just firewood, switch the bucket out, and then I'll just load the bucket full of that. And then I can come back with the backhoe and I'll actually just start pulling the dirt out to make my level spot. I'll work on building this road smooth. And then start bringing dirt down here where I want it, so I can start making the tent spots down here. Start getting them level. I got a whole bunch of maple down here. It was a dead maple cluster that I gotta try and get cleaned up. Actually, I might do that before I put the bucket back on, because I can just pile up a bunch of that in long branches on the forks. So anyway, that's where I'm at for today. And I'll keep digging at this guy and try and get that out of there. Keep clearing up. I've got a pile that I'm starting to make for all this brush, all this little stuff, although I'm actually a little bit torn because this stuff is perfect for doing a rocket stove type setup. So who knows? There's a big pile of it right here on the other side of that oak and ash cluster. I'm actually just realizing I'm really happy that that particular oak is there. That way in a few years when the emerald ash borer comes through, those ash trees right there, when they die I can cut them down and that oak will be very well established by then. There's a few more oaks. You can see this. Oh, let's see. Well, let's try this. It's all about the vantage point. Okay, see that dark green right there in the background? That's another oak mixed in the middle of these cottonwoods. I'm surprised it's that tall, since it's been struggling with those cottonwoods its entire life. So I'll release around that, and there's a couple others in there. But anyway, that's where I'm at. Alright, this is an oak stump. It's kicking my butt. I've got a BH92, which is a decent little backhoe for a farm tractor, and this stump is just too big, too strong. It was probably a 20-inch oak, and these roots, as you can see, are huge and massive, and they go everywhere. I mean, here's my hand for comparison, so that's about 6 inches, 5.5, 6 inches in diameter for that one. So I ended up making a ramp that comes down to see if I could use the bucket to sort of start digging underneath, and it kind of was working, but not well enough, and I felt like, I don't know, it just felt like that was abusing the tractor. So I had the idea that I'm going to try and saw the dirt around it. I have no idea if this will actually work or not, but my plan, I'm going to put the outriggers down, bring the bucket out, I'm going to hook the chain around the bucket, and I'm just going to pull on the chain. And if I don't have, if it works the way I want, it's just going to pull the chain around, and as it spirals around, it'll just keep cutting into the thing. It's kind of a last-ditch effort to try before it gets dark. So anyway, all right, so my first attempt didn't work. So I ended up just trying to drag the chain and see if that would work. It kind of did. You can see through there is where the chain went. Wrapped right around there, down up along there, right along here. So, I mean, it sort of worked. I gotta figure something else out though, because that didn't work well enough. Dang.
Well, as I mentioned, that didn't work very well. I tried a few different things and just kept trying to work it. I ended up widening this hole so that I could actually back the tractor down and work the tractor around it to the sides, which is kind of crazy. But while I was working on that, somebody decided she wanted to come and say hi. And she's about, I don't know, 35, 40 feet away. And that was the closest that she would get as long as the tractor was running, which is actually a good thing. Since she's afraid of the tractor, that means she doesn't come near, which means I don't really have to worry too much about her while I'm working, which is definitely something of a benefit and something I appreciate. Charlie is not quite the same. I get quite worried about him actually while I'm working sometimes. So here's a shot where I was starting to move the dirt around from the right side of the stump, the north side of that stump, and you can see it, the dirt piled up back there, and I'm gonna at this point turn the tractor around and start using the bucket to get rid of the tractor, or excuse me, to get rid of the dirt. And there really was quite a lot of it that I had to move.
Alright, well, apparently I never started. So the plan for today is to, not fall over the edge there. Cut this back in here further and work my way around that stump and just keep digging it down until I can bust it loose somewhere. This oak stump is quite the beast to try and take out with a little tractor. The plan was not to dig this deep. You can see in the background here I've got some. I started at the top thinking I would just keep bringing it down, but I found this oak stump to be quite the beast. So I will eventually work my way back in, and I'll have to fill this in. But I gotta try and get this done before this weekend. So since I don't have any kind of a fancy camera or GoPro or anything like that, I'm just using an old cell phone. Used some paracord to create a harness for it, and I can adjust the angle this way based on where I put this knot here at the top. I can adjust the tilt by how high these are and the angle side to side based on how far forward and backward I hang it. So that actually works pretty well. Borrowing looks like a vine maple and a hazelnut as my camera stand for today. So one more thing real quick. This, where the chains are stacked, piled, whatever. This is actually the level that I want this. So this area is roughly where I want it. It's a little bit high because I know it's going to pack down. And then I've got a bunch over here that I need to was planning to just push to the west there. This is stuff that I piled up last night as I was finishing trying to dig that. So I've had to dig down so I can get that tractor in there to get around the stump, which sucks because I'm digging below where I want. So that's going to be frustration. I'll have to take from this corner and back here on the top, and I'll have to fill that back down, or I may just create a berm here and then have that sunk down a little further. So I'm just working on solid ground, but I haven't decided yet. I'm taking the dirt now and bringing it down here where we will we're working on building some camping spots, some tent spots. We'll show you that real quick, might as well. Do you want me to throw it again, buddy? Oh, okay. Oh, good job. Thank you for not jumping at my face. Go, 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 fetch. Quit watching my shoulder. Look, go. See, you can't catch it if you're over here. You gotta go catch it. Okay, go. Go, fetch. Come on. Go. You're not even trying to catch it anymore. That's not as much fun when you don't jump to catch it, buddy. Anyway, so yeah, this will be leveled off at a grade to allow drainage. So like wherever this ends up being here, this end will be 1 inch lower for every 10 feet. So it'll be like 1.5 inches lower when I get done. And there will be a trail that I will cut in with the box cutter. There's going to be an entrance into this area somewhere around here. Not entirely sure. It's probably going to go through here, but I don't really want to take out these cherry trees because they have fallen, but they're still alive. And I guess it'll depend on if they actually bear fruit. If they bear fruit this year, this coming fall, summer, whatever, then I'll work a way to take just the top or something. Maybe make right here be the entrance. I don't know. But anyway, there will be a walking entrance in from there somewhere. There will be a pad here that'll be leveled, a pad here, one back there where the dirt's piled up here. There will eventually be a couple more up here. There will be one pretty much level by that stump somewhere. I'm going to try and see if I can get this tree to stand back up, although I doubt it. So that tree will probably come out because I don't want it falling on anybody. And the cherry trees around here, once they start leaning, they don't have much strength to them. But we'll put another one over here and maybe another one back here. I don't know. Anyway, that's technically next year's project. I'm only working on it at all right now because I've got to move this dirt somewhere. This is all the bramble that was cleared out. Rocket stove fodder, that's what that is. Anyway, I gotta get started.
Well, as you can see,
time's a wasting.
From the image here, I was indeed successful. And for the record, that stump being about 6 inches off the ground right there, that is as high as I could lift it, and it is only that high off the ground because I am actually at an angle. So as I came up out of the hole, it lifted the stump up high enough that I could actually get a picture of that But aside from that, the tractor actually can't lift that stump. So that stump is well over 2,000 pounds. And I realize a lot of that is just the dirt weight, but most of it is for sure the stump itself. I mean, you can just see there's roots just everywhere. It was just crazy. So what I ended up having to do to successfully get rid of this is I worked my way completely around the stump with the tractor. I was actually digging at it with the backhoe from all sides, and I ended up getting so frustrated with it that I started trying to dig with a pry bar and a shovel and a bunch of other stuff, and I gave up on all of that and got a chainsaw with a 20-inch blade, and I destroyed a chain. I literally just plunged the chain in as deep as I could and wiggled it back and forth and pulled it out and plunged it in somewhere else as deep as I could, and just trying to cut through the roots enough to make it so that it would break. And the fourth time I plunged it, it got so dull that I could not push it in all the way. And it just was not cutting anymore. Like I said, the chain was destroyed. But it worked. So you know what? Cost of a chain was worth it to finally get this stump out of the ground. And we actually have this stump still. It sat next to our camper for a year and a half because I didn't know what to do with it. I had this crazy idea that I wanted to like pressure wash the dirt off of it and then like fill it with epoxy and take slabs off of it once the roots were all glued together with the epoxy, and I ended up deciding against that. So we actually had 2 or 3 sprouts start from the roots, and so we ended up trying to plant it basically in our chicken run, figuring if they ended up taking off and succeeding, then we'd have another oak out there to provide some shade in the tree fruit grove. So anyway, but that's the end of the footage for today. So as always, thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. God bless you and yours, and I hope you're able to stay safe and healthy out there.